we've talked what? Like we've talked linebackers,
Linebacker, defensive line,
defensive line, and the
buck.
edge position,
Yeah.
the buck position, right? So now we're going to talk cornerbacks. So Dukes, we're gonna obviously you're gonna hang in here and give us some of your thoughts about who's returning, who's coming into this room. Ike and I were talking about this, and I asked Ike a question.
Hold on, before we get into that, correct me if I'm wrong. You played DB, right? I thought you when you played DB a little bit when
What
you
you
was
play, Dukes?
I ain't playing that, man. I play party.
So
I
did
play.
I
I.
thought you
So did I
was
in
a high
college.
school football guy, man.
I played. I
Oh,
played. I
I mean,
played.
yeah, man.
Well,
Yeah. I was
I ain't
straight.
talking
But
about in
no.
college. I know you went in. I know
Oh,
you
okay,
in
okay,
college. I'm
okay.
talking about high
No, I
school.
mean, yeah, man. Little DD, little receiver, not too, not like not nothing too strong.
No, he
Yeah.
trying to be. He's trying
All right,
trying
all
to
right,
be
all right,
humble.
all right. Look, so
Oh,
Ike went to
all,
school. All right. So
all
for
state
those that
line.
don't
Come on,
know,
man. Come on, man.
man, all right. So I was a decent athlete, but all right, come
All
on, man.
right, yeah.
All right, bro.
All right.
Hey, man, I don't even
Them
like
be the
talking
good
about it.
ones.
But look,
Them be the
I
good ones.
got
Like
so
them be the really talented dudes.
Yeah. Yeah, some
no,
slight,
I
man.
used
You
to
know what I'm saying? Had
for real.
like
I
2 or
used to
3
come in
picks in one game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but
but they was
I
that
used
was
to
a weak
come in the act
couple
with
opponent.
a
That
pick
was a weak
sixes.
opponent.
like I do remember Ike popping his head in that act. So yeah. See, you used to come in there a little bit too, didn't you?
No.
You ain't
Yeah,
never go
nah,
to the act.
I yeah,
Mm-mm.
I know I seen you in the act
I
before.
stayed in the app, bro. I was hooping
I'm about
all
to say,
day.
we used to hoop. Yeah, say no more. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know Ike used to be in the act. So
Yeah.
so Ike know a little bit more than anybody else. So okay, don't put me on the spot no more though.
Hilarious.
Yeah, but yeah, man, as far as like DB work, man, just like we were just talking about being in the act, and so Ike probably saying like, well, damn, dude, you probably play a little DB because he seen me hoop before. All right, did. So when like I talked about earlier, with the person on that roster at the DB position that Charles Kelly really likes is Antonio Kite. Reason being, he said he may be the best basketball player on Auburn's football team. Feet,
He likes the athleticism.
hips, the athleticism,
Mm.
and being able and feet that translate. See, there are a lot of guys who they're really athletic and they're really choppy, but they're really stiff. Feet that translate is being able to have functional mobility when it comes to playing different positions within the scheme. I think that man-to-man coverage, Kite is going to be one of those people that his feet and his hips allow him to be more successful than some of the other guys. He may not have the long speed of a Keionte Scott, or he may not have the physicality of a Kane Lee, but I think that as a third corner, he's exactly what you need, especially somebody who has some experience, who's been through the rigors of the Alabama program, and now he's having that same mentality at Auburn with Charles Kelly. Plus, you think about the old school nature of what they have in the secondary with the Charles Kelly and a Coach Crime-led secondary. So, yeah, I definitely think Antonio Kite is somebody that's going to give us quality minutes, that is going to give Auburn quality minutes. Y'all got to help me with that. That's going to give Auburn quality minutes. And but yeah, I'm excited for the DB room. I think the injury to Tyler Scott is going to hurt a little more than what people know it is.
We were just talking about that before we got
Yeah,
on, man. Like
man.
the
Yeah.
depth is not where you would want it to be in the DB room right now.
Now you're really an injury away, like
Yeah.
from being really in a bad position. Like you think about last year, we found out about Kane Lee, and he was thrown into the fire. But he had rough games. I think the roughest
Yeah,
game
he
was
had a couple
probably,
of struggles.
I think LSU was probably the roughest. But you're
Yeah.
talking about him guarding a first
I
round
mean,
receiver too.
a lot of people had rough games against
Yeah,
LSU. So I'm gonna forgive them on that one.
on the island field side. Yeah, I mean that's tough for an 18-year-old. But now I think he like, but that play, even when I talk to him, that's the one we talk about. It's ruminating in his mind. He's not gonna let that happen again. I think he's gonna be one of the better corners in the league this year.
Yeah, I like the way the kid competes, man. Like you said, the physicality is there. He doesn't necessarily have the speed of some of the other guys in that room, but he's gonna compete when the ball's in the air. If he's there, he's got great ball skills. I like what he brings to this room as far as just the tenacity, and then he studies the game too, right? Like I talked to some guys in the wide receiver room about like who do they not like going up against in practice. And he's a guy, the biggest compliment you can give from a wide receiver to a DB that I've heard is, even if I beat him, he doesn't let it get him down like that. They talk about the short memory you have to have at certain positions. DB is one of those positions you got to have a short memory. Okay, I got beat last time. I bet you won't beat me this next. But he's like right up off the mat. Let me compete again. Let me get extra reps in after practice so I can make sure I understand how I need to be playing this coverage type stuff. Man, he's that kind of guy. So I'm looking forward to him having a good season this year for sure.
Vernon
Yeah,
Speaks
for
Sports.
sure, man.
Appreciate you jumping
Football
in.
family.
Let me grab this one real quick. Vernon Speaks Sports. Appreciate you jumping in and hanging out with us. Been a minute since we've seen you, man. Welcome. Dukes, you was talking about he comes from a good football family.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He's got a little brother playing at Stockbridge, Mylan Lee, who's
Okay.
pretty good. He's a little smaller than Cam, but when you look at how his dad raised those guys, they were born and bred football players. Like it ain't nothing else they were gonna do. Now not to say they couldn't, but that's just what they chose, and that's what they were gonna go in. The line that they were going to go into, and I think you see that in the work ethic. Like when you hear guys say, I think a lot that goes into playing as a true freshman is being able to be trusted with the playbook, being able to digest everything. And there are guys, you can't have those mental lapses. You can't have, oh man, my bad, I'm not used to it. That doesn't work in the SEC. And so I just think that's another testament to Ken Lee. I think that Keionte Scott is primed for a big year at corner. I'm really interested to see how he plays in that position full time, because now it's a necessity. Before it was a luxury. Now it's a necessity.
Right.
He doesn't have a choice anymore. Colton Hood leaving was big.
Yeah, that's
You
something else
know,
we were just talking about before we got on, man. You
I mean,
would
I was
hope to be able to
confused
keep
about
one of
that
those
one.
guys, JD or Colton. Losing both push you in a
yeah,
bad way.
yeah. I mean, it did hurt, but I think you got guys. I think Caleb Harris is a guy that may be able to that you can maybe slide to the star position a little earlier, and maybe be able to move a guy like Champ Anthony into maybe more of a corner role to give you some relief. But there's going to have to be, and I think that's what I was saying about what Charles Kelly likes to do. The guys he's recruiting can help you everywhere. They
Yeah,
don't want to be in a bad position. You don't want to
right.
get in this position where you have only corners, because right now,
Right.
if you think about only corners, you really got 4, and that ain't enough. You really need
Yeah.
6 to feel comfortable. They got 4
Let's
Right.
corners.
let's take a look at the room as
Yeah.
this is right now. This is who Auburn currently has on the roster. So we just talked about a lot of these names: Keionte Scott, Ken Lee, Tyler Scott, of course, who had the ACL injury. JC Hart, I was impressed by JC Hart at the 8A game, the way he was out there competing. Now he is the guy, he is the burner in that room. Like that's the guy who
Yes.
can really, he can pick him up and put him down for you.
Mhm.
Champ Anthony, Coach Freeze can't say enough good things about Champ Anthony and the leadership he brings and the competitiveness that he brings. A lot of special teams work last season, but he's a guy that I think is going to factor in. Rod Elston, of course, walk on for the team. Um, Jay Crawford, the true freshman, he is another guy who competes really well. Had a rough spring game, if we're being honest, but he was going up against that guy for a lot of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's one of those guys who gonna make a lot of people look bad on
That's only gonna make him
Saturdays.
better though.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it. You're going up against some of these guys in that wide receiver room as young guys. You're going to get an because we're just talking about depth issues. Like you have no choice but to go get reps right now if you're Jay Crawford. Like they can't hide you in the depth chart. You're in the too deep off the rip, young man. Let's go do it. Let's see what you got, you know. So if it's not him competing against Cam Coleman, he's got to go up against Cam Brown, right? If it's not Cam Brown, then it's going to be Perry Thompson. Somebody on that outside receiver spot is a big body and is a beast. He's got to figure out how to compete against them every single practice. So going to be interesting to see. We talked about Antonio Kite, the transfer over from Bama. Lane Gaines, who we haven't mentioned yet, but I want to get some thoughts on him, is there in that room. The guys who left out of the room, DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, of course, both of those guys got drafted up to the Seahawks. JD Rim, Colton Hood, and then Tony Hundley Jr. all gone from last season's squad.
Yeah, I mean, I think JD Rhyme transferring didn't surprise me, but again, it's to much like everyone feels, Colton Hood transferring really hurt because he was expected to actually get some burn this year. He was
Yeah.
expected to be a huge contributor. So
I
him
was I was
transferring left
very
his
big on Colton Hood, man.
yeah.
Like, I don't know if y'all guys remember going into the spring, I was like, man, watch out for Colton Hood because I liked what I saw from him in the bowl game. Right. When I saw him competing in the bowl game, I was like, okay, yeah, he understands where he needs to be. He's gonna come up and he's gonna tackle physically. And he seemed like he was really solid. He doesn't look like the most athletic dude out there, but you can't there's just something to be said about a guy who knows how to play the scheme. And Colton just seems like a guy who knew how to play the scheme, man. So I was looking forward to seeing what he was going to do this season. So I was definitely disappointed to see him transfer about.
Yeah, man. That was his first full year of football. He was a really high level baseball player. So like that, and that had a lot to do with his rankings too. So yeah, man, I think that hurt. But I think you really gotta hope for some good injury luck, right?
Right.
And I think that you can also adjust your scheme based on your guys. Now, Jay Crawford had a really, I mean, yeah, man. So Cam Coleman gave it to him. All right, one was coverage bust, and I think he was looking for safety help. The other one, Coleman just made a play. But if you remember last January when him and Coleman went head to head, and I think it
Yeah.
was the Under Armour game, he comes up,
Yeah.
yeah, he comes up with the one hand interception on Coleman. Like they fight. Now it just happened on a bad stage for so happy for him, but I think as far as being physical, he's probably one of the stronger DBs in that room already. Like man, Jay Crawford's stronger as I don't know what. So I think that he's only going to get better. I think he could be this year's Can Lee. He's going to get thrown in the fire. He's got to take his lumps, but he's another one of those guys that he has that chip in his head where, bro, I'm good. And he walks around, he wakes up, I'm good. And as a cornerback, you got to have that chip in your head to say, I can do this. Because if you don't, you'll look at the tape and you'll go to Twitter and you'll go to the message boards
Right.
and you're going to read that and believe that about yourself. But when you got that chip in your head that says, hey, I'm like that, you got to have that. And I think that he has the physical tools. And I think one of the reasons that Auburn was so high on him, if you notice, he was one of the earlier commits last year, is because of what he. You got to think last year at Parkview, he was going up against two of the better receivers in the state, Antonio Williams, who ended up going to Rutgers, who could have went to Auburn, but chose to stick with Rutgers, and Mike Matthews, who is probably the second best freshman in the SEC next to Cam Coleman when it comes to wide receiver.
Tennessee, right?
Yeah, went to Tennessee. He went crazy in the spring game just like Cam Coleman did. I think Cam Coleman got more coverage, but Mike Matthews was going to start at Tennessee, and he was going up against him every day in practice last year. So I think to answer that question in the chat, I forgot who said it, but they said who's the fourth cornerback. I think it's got to be Jay Crawford.
Yeah, I like Jay Crawford a lot. Just again, I get the opportunity to talk to some of the guys who are in the room, particularly in the wide receiver room. And Jay Crawford was a guy whose name kept coming up as, like you said, the way he competes, right? Like physical. Like he's a guy who's one of the things that was a big knock for me, and he improved it in this last season for Nehemiah Pritchett was just coming up in run support. Last year, Mighty came back. He was like, bro, he was looking for the smoke last year. I was like, okay, this is what I wanted to see. That was an issue that I had with DJ James. I didn't feel like DJ James really wanted to be out there, with a running back coming around the edge and go make a tackle. He had some opportunities where he did it sometimes he wouldn't do it, and he's a smaller guy, and I understand he's making business decisions out there every now and then. Crawford's not that dude. K.N. Lee's not that dude. Those guys are gonna go out there and they're gonna the edge is good. they're gonna be out there and they're gonna compete.
And I can't wait to see them together because they played together a lot. 707 Hustle Link. Crawford was on one side, Ken Lee was on the other side, KJ Bolden at safety. That was probably the best 707. And Mike Matthews was the other safety. So that was probably the best 707 secondary I may have ever seen in the state. And I just think that the chemistry that those two had, and if you notice, their playing styles are kind of similar. They want to hit you. Like, bro, like it ain't no, oh, yeah, I'm a cornerback, pretty guy. No, they are rough, they rugged, they don't brush their hair sometimes. They them type of guys. They're not the pretty boy corner. No, they gutter, bro. I'm telling you now.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah. I like it. But to your point earlier about Alford coming, he's that kind of player where it's like, bro, like No, all the smoke. Bring it right here.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I
he'll
think
fit in in that kind of way.
somebody said in the group, Dukes does Can Lee Anthony Rudd said, does he have any weaknesses? I think he could he's not as fast as you would
Yeah.
like for somebody at his size, being like 5'11. You want to see a guy in that 4'4", hot in the low 4'4" range. I think he's more of a high 4'4", close to 4'5" guy. When we talk about football speed, he's gonna be in every play. But if I had anything that he could work on, I would probably say, which is something that you could work on technique wise, but I mean, guys are blessed with 4.2 speed.
Right.
If Keionte Lee was a 4.2, we talking about a top 5 corner with it, with the
Yeah.
way that he plays. Like
Yeah.
he's like that. But I think that's the only thing I can really see. Not as long as you would like at cornerback, right? A little bit undersized, but I just think that's what makes him him. That fight in him.
Yeah. But listen, every opportunity that he has had that I've seen where he was in position, the ball skills, man. Like, it was the one situation last year. They initially threw the flag on him coming over the top and getting the PBU, but like when you go back and watch the play, he cleared everybody, bro. I'm like, yeah,
Mm,
he understands how to attack the football when it's in the air. And that's something that I mean, you can teach that, but some guys just have it, and he just kind of just has it, man. Like he just has the ability to go and attack it when it's in there, and he competes really well. Like he's not going to be a guy that if it's there aren't a lot of DBs at his size that compete against back shoulder throws as well as he does.
man,
So
when I liken it to how Charles Barkley was 6'4" and able to rebound.
mm,
There's a
yeah,
certain innate ability that people have in order to position themselves and anticipate where the ball is going to be. And you can't take many false steps when you're undersized. He
yeah,
has that ability.
Right.
It's just like he has a sixth sense of where to be and how to position himself to where you won't be able to fully extend and his extension as long as possible. So that way, no diddy. And so that way he can actually compete for the ball in a
right.
way that somebody longer than him would be, no diddy.
Your thoughts about Keionte, man. Keionte is playing on the outside exclusively this year. Thoughts about that? Obviously, we know what work he can do when he's playing in the slot, but he's the outside guy this time. But you think how do we
Yeah,
project Keionte is going to perform this year? Obviously, he's a talented guy, but what our thoughts about him in this position exclusively?
I think it, I think it's a potential move, right? I think it's something that's going to help him in the long run. And I
Right.
think you may have a few bumps along the road because he may not be as much of a natural corner because he's played so much in other places in the secondary. But I think that when all cylinders are firing, you're not going to find a guy more athletic than him, a guy that can do everything like he can. And I just think that I think he'll be fine. I think Auburn's corners depth wise, yeah, it's not the greatest, but they won't be the weak link on the in that room. And usually for the past few years, Auburn's DB room has been the strength. So I think Keionte I think he have a decent season. I'm not gonna be surprised to see some downs, but I think there'll be a lot more ups than downs. And I think as that learning curve starts to kind of flatten a little bit as the season goes on, because he's starting to get those reps and seeing different styles of different receivers, noticing different offenses, and one thing I do like about playing a slot versus the perimeter is that there's more east-west motion in the slot that you have to be
Right.
prepared for. And I think that helps you on the perimeter when you begin to flip your hips. So I think that that's something that's going to help him. And if you look at him when he's returning punts, he definitely has a little wiggle to him. So that's going to be helpful to him on the perimeter. I just think that if I think the most important thing is knowing when they hit that switch and to go full speed, knowing when to turn on the afterburners, because you have to play at a controlled pace and on the perimeter, because one false step, we even, I'm leaving. So I think that that's going to be important as far as the nuances of playing cornerback and knowing when, hey, is this a double move, that stutter step, the dead leg, when he sticks, what am I doing? I think those are the small things as he learns that's going to make him a better cornerback in a potential NFL. I think he could be a day 2 pick if he has a season that we're looking for and he runs well.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern is what you said for me is the risk taking, right? Like we've seen him as a punt returner. Kind of he is the guy that wants to make a play every play, right? Like
Mhm.
every play is an opportunity for him to make a play. So if he sees like, oh man, I'm finna jump this route, the double move might be a
Mhm.
problem for him out there. And so he's got to Duke's point, man, you got to be disciplined. And the discipline might be something that he's got to develop in reps out there because he's not used to being on that island. Even though this is the one thing, and y'all know that Keionte is my guy, right? Like I've been a Keionte Scott fan from the minute he stepped on the plains. But he wanted this responsibility this year. Like he lobbied for the opportunity to play on the outside. And so similarly to what we talk about some of these other guys, when you just kind of want that and you have that desire to compete in that way, you're going to have the upper hand on most of the guys that you're going to go against. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with some of the more elite receivers. Like if he's going to have the opportunity against Missouri to go up against a Luther Burden. Now they like to play Luther Burden in the slot a little bit more just because they like to give him, they like to do like some free releases for him so they can't get hands on him. But if he's on the outside, is he going to have the opportunity to compete against a Luther Burden? When you think about when you look at Auburn's schedule, like who's the elite receivers though that are on the schedule this year? Oklahoma might have one, but there aren't a lot of elite receivers that Auburn's going to have to face this season on the outside.
I don't know what Georgia's returning.
They got
does Georgia really have like elite receivers?
Ra pretty good. Dylan Bell is a draft pick. I know for a fact. He's a sleeper. He's really good route running, Dylan Bell. But I don't. As far as elite, if you're talking first round type guys, I don't think in the conference you got Dylan Lee. Luther Burden. Who we got? Kentucky got a real. They got a real explosive guy who I think could hurt us. Berrien Brown. Like he's lightning in the bottle. So
I think Arkansas's guys are more shifty than they are, anything else.
Ole Miss got Juice Wells. Oh, we don't play Ole Miss.
That's what I'm saying. You don't play Ole Miss this season. You don't play LSU this season.
That's just not on our schedule.
Right. Like you don't play Tennessee this season. Right. And I think
we don't got Tennessee either.
No.
Auburn don't have Tennessee either.
Nah. That's what I'm saying. Like
you got a schedule? Let's look at it.
I do not have it like as a. I have it like available to me, but and I can rattle it off. I know exactly who the schedule is: A&M, Cal, New Mexico, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Louisiana Monroe, Texas A&M, Bama.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, really, right now, Berrien Brown scares me. Luther Burden scares me. The boy from Oklahoma scares me. And that's the real top flight scary guys. Like that I think that Auburn would have a problem with. If I just had to name 3 schools just off the top of my head, knowing Alabama's guys, they're going to be, Alabama's going to reload their receiver. They're going to be fine. But yeah,
I guess
it's not a murderer's row of receivers, right?
That's kind of the point I'm going at. Like, if you're saying there's going to be 4 games out of the season where he's really going to have to like deal with a top talent as an outside receiver, and again, some of these guys get moved around a lot, so it's not like he's going to be competing with them. It's not like how it was with Roger McCreary when he had to go against who is it, Jameson Williams. Right? Like it's not like, okay, every play I got him. They're not going to be doing that kind of situation with Keionte. So I think he'll be fine. And then, what really allows for cornerbacks to flourish in this system that DJ Durkin runs is how well the front 7 plays. And that's going to be really the key. Is your front 7 going to make it where you can afford to make a mistake every now and then because the quarterback doesn't have time to figure out where the rush is coming from or sit in the pocket and really dissect what's happening? So if the front 7's going to play well, then that's even better for a guy who's a risk taker like Keionte Scott, who's like, all right, I just jumped this route right here and we're good, because he's got to throw hot.
Right. No, for real. I like that. Yeah.
Let's get to some of the comments here before we get out of here. Anthony Rudd asks, Dukes, could Caleb Harris step in for Scott?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to that earlier. Like, I think more so Caleb Harris will probably be able to slide into the star position in a pinch, and that way you could probably move a guy like Champ Anthony, who may be a little more well suited for that at this point.
Hmm. Exclusive TV says only concern I have is man coverage and tackling.
I ain't tripping on the tackling.
Yeah, I'm about to say I don't know that I'm worried about tackling from this DB unit. Man coverage, as long as your front seven is doing their job, I'm not super concerned about that either. I think that the guys are sticky. When we did the DJ Durkin film review, we talked about a lot of the cushion that they give in this Durkin system. So I'm more concerned about if you have quarterbacks or play callers that are patient enough to just get you 3-4 yard quick routes. Then you have your DBs, and we just go back to what I said about Keionte Scott. Are they patient enough to just let it develop in front of them, go rally and tackle, or are they
So
going
they're
to start trying to
not a
jump
press
routes?
man. It's
Right.
not a press. It's not a press coverage with
They don't
Durkin.
play a lot of press man in the Durkin system. Nah, I mean,
Okay.
they'll go to it every now and then, and usually it's going to be a combo coverage, though, right? So, like, one side might be playing press man, the other side is playing a lot of off coverage. So, it
Gotcha.
just kind of depends.
Gotcha. Okay. TK says Amon Lanyanis, 10.700 meters. Okay.
Yeah, he's
That's
a burner as well. Yeah, he's a burner as well. He's
I
a
think
guy. I
that-
think he might be a little slept on in this class as far.
Is he a summer enrollee? Was he a summer enrollee?
Yeah, he wasn't here during the fall, and so like that's really the only reason why I think a lot of people aren't talking about him. But when I do go and watch his tape and watch him compete in some of the all-star situations, he's a really sticky corner. Like he really has the fluidity to be able to turn and run with guys. He's got the speed to be able to close on guys. So I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be a very solid contributor. I mean, he doesn't jump anybody in the depth chart, but he's going to be a quality guy that you need to have as a piece in case you need him.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Robinson asks, Ike, is it true Thompson, as in Jarian Thompson, will be the star?
No, he's not going to play star. He's going to be one of the safeties. And Coach Hugh Freeze says that he's pretty much quarterback in the defense on the back end back there. So
yeah, he's gonna play field safety.
Yeah, we'll get into the safety room probably on the next breakdown. But yeah, he's not playing the star though. No.
Brett Browning says if Durkin can scheme the front, and you've said this already, Ike, the front six, the seven, well, the DBs will be fine, barring injury.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And hopefully, we've already with Scott being injured, we've already, I think I said his name right. We've already had all the injuries we're going to have. Auburn would have all the injuries they're going to have this season. So hopefully, no more of those. Exclusive TV says, appreciate the super chat, by the way. He says, I'm really high on Jarian Thompson.
Yeah, I think Jarian Thompson, listen, again, Coach Freeze talked about him at media days as being the vocal leader in that defensive backfield, a guy who's getting people lined up. If you were on with me, I guess that was yesterday when we did office hours, I talked a little bit about people may not like the comparison, but from a football standpoint, he's very much a Zion Puckett kind of guy who knew where he was supposed to be, knew where everybody else was supposed to be all the time, right? And he if you could turn on the tape versus for him playing Texas, he didn't play a lot of snaps, but he would miss tackles every now and then, a la Zion Puckett, right? But he was always going to understand the scheme, understand where he needed to be. And that's important for a guy playing as a safety. And he's got the physicality. He doesn't have a problem coming up and doing what he needs to do. So hopefully he will continue to grow in that. And again, if the front seven is doing his thing, no, you ain't got to worry about it. He's not going to be out there on the island. And you think about like coverage wise, as the safety position of what he's going to be doing. How often? I mean, who are the big tight end threats? I don't even know the answer to this one. Who are the big tight end threats that he might have to be out there in coverage against? You got the kid Haas from Arkansas that I think was a pretty good receiving tight end. But the better tight ends in this conference, Auburn's not playing against them during the regular season, right? So I don't know. We'll see.
Exclusive TV says, put Ike on Farouk. He locking him down.
On Farouk. Who is Farouk?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
but it was a super chat, so I had to read it. Okay. All right. C. Harvin says, real question is, will opposing offensive linemen have time to get the ball QB to
Thinking
get the ball
maybe
to their wide receivers. The front
QBs
seven may be
maybe.
nasty this year.
I'm high. Listen, I'm higher on the front seven than a lot of people are. I've heard a lot of people talk about Auburn maybe not having the quality depth up front. Coach Hugh Freeze says he thinks that he has six that he can rotate, and I mean it's only three spots up there, right? You're talking about a nose slash interior D tackle. You got your other D tackle, and you got your defensive end, and he has six guys that he feels like he can rotate. Um, that's enough to be able to go out there and compete consistently. And then the question is who's going to be the 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 second guy behind J Mac out there at that edge position. And there are some talented guys that can be out there. And I haven't seen them yet very much, but Keyron Crawford, I've seen some or heard some good things about him. So I'm not worried about that. And then the linebackers
Yeah,
between Austin Keys and
Eugene.
Eugene Asante, like you've got two beasts starting out there, and then you've got some really good guys falling in behind them. We talked about the linebacker core. I think the front seven will be all right.
Yeah,
So
agreed. Go ahead, Dukes.
no, I was saying I was agreeing. That's it.
BZ says, "Is Kelly a man or zone guy?"
Well, I mean, it's not Kelly's defense first and foremost, so like he's not going to just decide on his own whether or not guys are going to be playing man or zone. But it's it's a mixed scheme. Like they're not just playing one thing.
Mhm.
So I'd say yes, both. I think he likes guys that can play man, right? Like he wants guys. Same thing with Wesley McGriff. Like they want guys that can go out there and compete as a man corner so that they don't have to do a bunch of crazy stuff. But Durkin's gonna mix it up. He's gonna do some man, they're gonna be a very multiple in the ways that they're going to attack teams this season, mixing up the coverages quite a bit.
All right. Any closing thoughts, gentlemen, about this secondary recruiting? Anything? I know we've lamented about the concern about the depth for this unit, but it's a very talented unit. So I'm excited to see how these guys perform. It's got a lot of opportunity for new faces to kind of assert themselves with some of our more senior cornerbacks going off to the league or transferring out. Our thoughts about this unit as a whole. Been one of the strengths, but it's a bit of a transition year of sorts. So our thoughts overall before we get out of here.
I think it's a solid unit. I think the biggest issue again for me is going to be depth, as far as experience depth. And you do worry about whether or not you have enough bodies. But if they've got the kind of guys that they feel like they can move around to different spots, then you're not as worried about that. But I like the prospects of the DB room, um,
Mhm.
but still a lot of work. I think before I need to see a little bit more before I'm like, oh yeah, they really finna be out here clowning. So, but yeah, to me, it's
There's
gonna be
a
about that front seven.
There's this. I think the schedule sets up really good for them too, because you got a few games to warm up, kind of get a feel for the game before it really gets real by like what week 4, week 5 when
Yeah, I think
Arkansas,
week 5 is
Oklahoma comes in.
Oklahoma's going to challenge that defense. Like,
Yeah,
they're gonna want to throw it around a lot with Oklahoma. I talked to some folks down there at media days about Jackson Arnold, and he's a bit of a gunslinger kind of guy, so he's gonna want to air it out, and so you're gonna get your opportunities with the ball in the air as a defensive back group. But I don't. I haven't gone and done any film review on Cal yet. I don't think that that's a team that's going to be like, I think they're going to lean more on their run game and play action game to try to open things up with Jaden out there.
right.
Uh, Athletically, the other two games in that first three, A&M, New Mexico, there's just no reason why you should have to be worried about that. Arkansas is going to actually probably be a lot more QB run action, and they're going to use that as a play. Because I watched some tape on the, and we'll talk more about all of this stuff. But yeah, game 5 is really where you're going to get into spread them out, throw the ball around for the first time in the season. So that you'll start to really see what you got in your defensive back unit after that. Georgia, they're gonna throw it around with Carson this year. I think they're gonna let it loose.
Mhm.
You already know Missouri's gonna throw it around a bunch.
Right.
Um, Kentucky probably not as much. More going to be more control run game type stuff. Texas A&M's going to throw it around a bit. Virginia, I mean not Virginia, but Vanderbilt. I really don't even know what to expect. I mean, I know what that offense looked like last year with New Mexico, but do they have the ability to go in there and make it happen up front? Or is he going to have to be a miracle worker? What's the kid's name that went up? That was New Mexico State QB that went over there.
Was it Nico something?
I can't remember what his name is. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. But yeah, is he going to have to be a miracle worker out there because the offensive line can't protect? That's yet to be seen. And then Pavia, thank you, Diego Pavia.
Yeah.
And then Alabama, you know, that scheme is meant to throw the ball around a lot. Are they going to have the confidence to by that time, will they have built the confidence in to let the QB throw it around a lot is the question. Because Milroe's got an arm, but be clear, that offense where they tried to make him a stand in the pocket, multiple read guy, that's when he struggled last season early. When they started lessening the reads and really letting him run a little bit so he could use his legs, that's when he became more successful as a passer because he was utilizing his legs more often as a function of the offense. So the question is, can he operate the offense in that way that he'll be the threat with his arms? That's yet to be seen. So, I mean, you really, again, 3 or 4 teams where you're really going to be challenging your defensive back unit as far as we're going to line up and throw the ball a lot. That's why I said the front seven is going to be the key because they have to be able to control what's happening to make these teams say, okay, I don't want to, but now I got to throw it.
Dukes, your thoughts, man?
Yeah, man. I think really, like I said, it's a depth issue with me. I think it's a really talented room. I think it's one you'll be hard pressed to find 2 top twos better than 2 duos better than Keionte and Keionte. I think they're a really good duo. But they're really top heavy. The schedule does kind of lend to help out a little bit where you don't have as many of the elite receivers as you guys have pointed out. But I think that is on the front. I think this is the year where the parity in the defense comes along, where as the defensive secondary has been the strength for so long. Now, hopefully, we get to see the front the strength and take some stress off of the secondary, off of the back end.
Yeah.
And I think the safeties are going to be important in the zone scheme. I think your safeties allow you as cornerbacks to play a lot more freely. And I think the range that these safeties have and their ability in space is going to be really important. And I think turnovers are going to be huge. If it's nothing else that I like about this secondary, it's the ball skills. I think that by creating turnovers, you lessen the time that you have to be in coverage, and people get afraid and they start to say, "Well, we know if we play with him, what's going to happen." So I think if you can start to if you look at the season Jalen Simpson had, even though he was playing safety, if you notice the respect that he started to garner as the season went on, that was one of the places that you didn't want to go with the ball. So I think if early on you can get the ball rolling with some early turnovers and some good plays in coverage, I think that'll be really huge for the secondary and especially the cornerbacks.
And it's a sizzle alert this summer, y'all. This summer, let the only thing smoking at your barbecue be the grill, not your grooming game. Get ready for the ultimate cookout season with MANSCAPED. Whether you are flipping burgers or cannonballing into the pool, make sure your meat looks neat. That is crazy. That is an absolutely crazy phrase right there. With the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, fire up your grooming routine and keep it cool with Manscaped. Head to manscaped.com and use code RAPPORT for 20% off and free shipping. Make this summer sizzle for all of the right reasons. And since you guys asked for it, for full episodes, check out the Midweek Report, going live on the War Report's YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Wednesday nights. Until the next time, War Eagle.